we've seen what a disaster that has led to, and another $40 billion a year on the prison industrial complex, in which we have more imprisoned people than any other country in the world, and half of them are for victimless crimes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, I just want to commend you. You've been in Congress for over 20 years now, and you've learned the rhetorical 180. I want to take you back to 2003, when you yourself were a leader in your party in the Medicare debate on Part D to expand this bureaucracy, to have unfunded mandates in the trillions of dollars. If you go back to that debate in 2003, the man standing up here on stage was supporting taxpayer liabilities for Medicare Part D. There was if you want to talk about nastiness on the floor, I think you can ask former Congressman Smith about some of the nastiness of that vote, when you guys were down to one vote to get that passed, and you were talking to him about helping his son out to run for his spot. So I just think that you've done a 180. You didn't mind expanding this bureaucracy in 2003. You didn't mind expanding.
Or a question, or I guess you made your comment.
Oh, why?
Turn it back on! Woo! Scumbag!
I've been a nurse in California for 27 years, and I have seen the increased failures of our healthcare system, and it has been primarily brought on by the free market. My statement is that many feel the health insurers have already won this healthcare debate by redefining the terms of reform, and that no matter what specific emerges in the bill, the insurance industry will emerge more profitable. Please comment directly to this statement.
Well, you know, it's an incredible experiment we've had here in this nation since 1776. And the greatness, part of the greatness of it, there's many, many, many parts of it, is our free enterprise system of competition, of people going out. If someone is making too much money, then someone else starts a business to run against it that can put it out for less money. I mean, that's the way it works in everything, whether you buy an automobile or whatever. And if we have a problem, I think we need to have more competition. It's worked so well since 1776. I for sure don't want to go to like the old Soviet Union, where they had an experiment that didn't work very well. But we all admit we have a problem. No one's saying we don't have a serious problem with healthcare in a number of different areas. Probably the biggest part is these escalating costs. But what we need to do is a plan that we take more than just a couple hours to look at, that comes up with a bureaucracy like this and is going to cost us like what we see over here. We need to look at this a lot more than we have and come up with a plan that's going to work a lot better and address some of these very valid concerns that have been brought up.
Congressman, I'd like to address that very issue right there, and it's the legislative process. We've seen this crisis mentality where everything is being steamrolled through without proper consideration, including this bill. You talked about 7 weeks of hearings when it was proposed before, and yet a few hours this time. And I don't understand why there's not a way to stop that, put on the brakes and say, wait a minute, we've got to talk about this before it can go to vote. And as my representative, I would like for you to be more forceful in trying to stop this. Just voting no is not enough.
Well, let me state what I have been doing. Number one, I don't control, God bless our local media. We have very good local media that's covering us now. They don't cover us all that well back in Washington, if you notice. I mentioned this hearing, see, we're not in control, or at least we were for 12 years, but we're not now. And what we did see from 9 o'clock until 1:30 the next morning is we were out there letting the other side know what our concerns were. For example, we had 38 amendments. All 38 were voted down. Several of them were my amendments. One of the amendments that was voted down, now get this, It was that members of Congress would have to have this government plan. If the other side thinks it's so good, if it's such a wonderful plan, then why shouldn't members of Congress have it too? Well, guess what? They voted that down. All of us voted for it, and the other side voted that down. They didn't like that. The other amendment we had, one of these 38, was that we would begin controlling these out-of-control trial lawyers who are running our costs up and requiring every test we can. They voted that down as well. Now, are we covered that well when we do that? Well, evidently we were covered well enough to turn all of you out. And evidently it was covered well enough that this is symbolic of what's going on in all 434 other congressional districts throughout this nation today. So I'd say somehow where you, the public, is being heard now, and you're being heard in these town hall meetings. So God bless our democracy. I believe it's perfect.
I lived in Canada for 21 years. We thought we had superb medical care. The doctors, the hospitals, the nurses, the cleanliness. I never had to wait. Never. Nor a few days for a doctor's appointment. And that's all. This is the truth. I only know British Columbia, but I know something about British Columbia. Nor did I know anyone who had to wait. And we had our jobs. My husband and I took us in contact with many people. Both years. Okay, I'm saying our jobs took us into contact with many people, my husband and I, over the years, and still no one ever told us about having to wait. My experience in Canada was so great, so wonderful, that although I work full-time,
So why are you here?
Mother and my aged aunt, in spite of that, I volunteer for single payer, and I will until we win.
Okay, well, you know, I'm great that was then. All I can do is what I hear now. Their system is great if you don't get sick. Their system is great if you don't have anything seriously wrong with you. But I can tell you one thing, if you need some expensive tests, you can wait up to a year or more. And that's why we have thousands of Canadians who have been waiting in line and why they come to the United States to get tests. Another example of this is the difference in lifespan on cancer, whether you get cancer in the United States or you get it in the UK or if you get it in Canada. Depending on the type of cancer, your life expectancy is from 2 to 7 years longer if you live in the United States, and probably the main reason is we can get tests sooner. You don't have to wait for 5 or 6 or 8 months to get a test, and as we know with cancer, the sooner you treat it, the better your chances are.
Congressman Herger, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. I have an idea more than a criticism or anything negative. I was traveling recently and had the opportunity to talk to a director of ethics for a hospital. And he told me this one idea that he just kind of brainstormed, hadn't really communicated it, but maybe it could be a little silver bullet. And what it was much like the legal industry where when you sign up to become an attorney, you do pro bono work. His idea was, since there's actually, I believe, only around 10 million people that are uninsured, I don't know if that number's right, but the idea was, the point